Hey everyone, welcome back to RetroBreak and welcome to my video on the N64 Everdrive. And ever since I got my hands on this one a few months ago, I have just been constantly blown away by all of the cool stuff that it can do. Starting off with the first thing here, which is the main reason that I actually wanted it. So I use this N64 primarily, but this is a PAL N64 that runs in 50 frames a second, which means that all the games that I've got over there run a lot slower than what you can get in America or in Japan. But thanks to this being region free, I can put the ROMs on here and play them all using my Japanese N64 that I've got right here. And I love this colour as well. It's just an amazing console. So to pair that with the Everdrive and to be able to play all of the games I already own in full speed on a Japanese console that I really love so much is just fantastic in and of itself. But there's 9 more really amazing things that this can do that were just not even possible before. Starting off with the ability to play and also make your own homebrew games for the system. So you might have noticed that it actually has a USB port on that side, and that allows developers to actually debug their games on real hardware using this real cartridge. And I decided to check out some of the best homebrew games that have been made for the N64. There's actually been a few competitions now dating back till 2020, I believe. So I downloaded some of the winners of the past competitions and checked some of the games out, and they're all really fun, and it's great to see that there's still people today taking advantage of the N64 and actually making brand new games for it. There was a really cool one that actually uses 2 controllers to each control a different object on the screen, and you have to bounce this saw blade around whilst you're trying to avoid all of the different obstacles. That was really fun. There was another one which took advantage of the 3D capabilities, which was really cool to see from a homebrew game in the first place, but the game itself was really fun too. You basically control 2 different creatures. You control a big stomping robot and a little robot as well, and you can move them both independently and solve little different challenge areas, and it was a really fun game, and there's a load more out there to check out. So check out the website on the screen right now if you want to go and see some more of those competition winners. Next is Portal 64, and I'm sure some of you have seen this floating around on the internet, on Twitter, or on various different retro gaming websites over the years, but it's finally out, it's finally fully playable, and it is just an absolutely mind-blowing experience from start to finish. This is basically the original Portal shrunk down onto the N64, and it really feels incredible. I always loved the way that first-person shooters felt on the N64 anyway. I always felt like it felt really natural, especially with the inverted controls, because that's what I was used to back in the day, but it felt great playing Portal on this. And obviously the frame rate isn't amazing and the resolution's very low, but even just seeing this run on the system is just a mind-blowing experience, and it works so well. Like, the Portal physics and everything are just absolutely spot on, and I'm just so impressed. I don't know how far into the game it actually goes, because I've only played maybe 10 or so levels in the training area. I don't know whether it continues after that or not, so let me know down in the comments whether you think I should carry on playing, but I had to include it here just because this is just an incredible achievement and definitely the best homebrew game that I've found to try out so far. So definitely download it if you've got an Everdrive, and if you haven't got one, this is definitely a reason to get one, to experience this game on the original system. It's just an incredible achievement. Now something insanely cool that I never thought I would ever be able to experience in my life. This is the Spaceworld 1997 demo of Ocarina of Time. So I'm not sure whether this is actually decompiled from the official demo or whether fans have actually recompiled it based on archival video footage and testimonials and things like that from around the time. But basically what this is the entire of Ocarina of Time as it existed when it was first being shown to the public in 1997, a whole year before it came out. And there's some really fascinating differences. I played through it on stream and I really enjoyed checking out all of the original beta elements of the game and how everything was very slightly different. Like, the controls are different, the character models are different, you get to explore Kakariko Village and everyone has different things to say, and the text boxes come down in a different way, and the shop was a completely different layout, and the path to the Deku Tree was completely different, and then experiencing some of those original old dungeon designs, which are nowhere near as good as the final game, by the way, but it's still really cool to experience. And they even included some test areas in the game as well, which is kind of where magazines got their original screenshots from back in the day, and you've even got even more basic test rooms which just like check the distance between different blocks and stuff. So this was just an absolutely fascinating thing to look into, and it's so cool to be able to experience this on the original system, just like people would have done way back in 1997. Next is Smash Remix, and this is one of the most incredible things that I found while I was looking for stuff to put on the N64 Everdrive. This is a complete overhaul of the original Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo 64 with 20 brand new characters and a bunch of new stages and new music, and all of the new characters have completely new movesets, and it basically feels like a brand new gaming experience, and I was just blown away by everything that I saw in this. You can play as characters like Marina from Mischief Makers, you can play as Sonic, you can play as Dr. Mario, Young Link, Ganondorf, Falco, Dark Samus, Wario, metal variations of all the characters. There's just so much going on here. And there's some brand new stages as well. There's stages from things like Conker's Bad Fur Day, which was so cool to see. There's Banjo Kazooie as a playable character and as a new stage. It's honestly amazing that this exists at all, and you really need to check it out for yourself if you're a fan of Smash Brothers and you want to experience what is easily the best way to play the original game. And there's so many different options for all sorts of different control styles and tweaking the game to exactly your specific liking. It really is a sight to behold, and you can tell that an insane amount of effort has gone into making this a possibility, and it's just absolutely incredible. So the developer was JS64, and I'll put a link to the description if you want to try and download it and check it out for yourself. I definitely recommend doing so. Next is a really cool thing. So not only can you play games from any region on this, but you can also apply patches to the games as well, either straight through the cartridge itself by renaming the patch and allowing it to do automatically, or download a patching tool for the PC and do it that way. But there's a bunch of really cool things out there, including some translation patches. So what that means is that we can now actually experience the original Animal Crossing, as it was known in Japan as Animal Forest, for the N64 in English. And that is just so cool to see where Animal Crossing got its start, and surprisingly how similar it is to the GameCube game that came after it here in the UK. And it's just so cool to see where Animal Crossing got its start and to actually play the original version and actually be able to understand what's going on too. And another really cool thing related to Japanese N64 games is the fact that there's actually patches out there now to allow you to play 64 disc drive games as cartridge games. So some of these games that would be thousands upon thousands of pounds to actually get and play for yourself, such as the N64 F-Zero expansion pack for F-Zero X to allow you to use the course creation mode and unlock a variety of new tracks and cars and things. You can now put that onto the Everdrive cartridge and play it on the original system, and it will boot up just like it would if you were using the 64 DD. So that is just an insanely cool thing that I never thought I would be able to do. And I also checked out some other DD games as well. There was Doshin the Giant, which again is a game that came out later on the GameCube that was originally an N64 title. And I also played a little bit of SimCity 64 as well, which was another DD game. And SimCity for the DD was actually really cool. You can actually bring the camera right down to street level and actually walk around the street and see the people living in the world that you've made and all the cars going around and stuff. And that must have been mind-blowing back in the day, and it was still really cool to see even today. So 64 DD games on the N64 is now a possibility, and I could not be happier. Now I'm kind of bundling all of these next hacks into one because although they're all amazing in their own right, they're basically kind of the same thing. So take Super Mario 64 and take Banjo Kazooie and then basically do whatever the hell you want to do with them. That is what ROM hackers and modders have gone out and done, and the results are absolutely incredible. There's so many Mario 64 ones out there. I've downloaded about 30, and there's like hundreds and hundreds of them. There was one I checked out for Mario 64 on stream, and it was called Behind the Cursed Mirror, and this one was just so impressive. It's basically a brand new Super Mario 64 experience where you're basically going through the mirror in the game into this alternate reality, which is kind of set out like a stage show, and there's all brand new levels, there's new characters to interact with, and it's just so surreal to play. And there was a really impressive one that I found as well called Mario 64 Builder, which is kind of like Mario Maker, but for Super Mario 64. So you've got full 3D control of the camera, and you can put down all of the different blocks and enemy types and coins and stars and everything, and basically make your own fully playable 3D Mario 64 levels using the actual console with a really nice user interface. And it flowed so well, and I had so much fun build on my own stages on that, and it's just incredible what developers have managed to do. And the same for Banjo Kazooie as well. There was a bunch of really cool ones. There was one in particular that really caught my attention called Banjo Kazooie Stay at Home, and this was so cool because it actually takes levels from other N64 games and puts them in Banjo Kazooie. So I was going around levels based on things like Pokemon Snap, like Bomberman 64, like Mario 64, and getting to run around them as full proper Banjo Kazooie style environments, complete with their own set of challenges and their own jiggies, and it was just an incredible experience. So the developer of this hack is actually working on turning it into a full-fledged game on its own, complete with a hub world and new different worlds to explore, and it's going to be called Banjo Kazooie Nostalgia, and hopefully it's coming out at some point later this year, so I'm really looking forward to checking that out. I'll probably end up playing it on stream again as well, so stay tuned if you want to see what the full game looks like. Now for another thing that I never thought I would ever be able to experience, and something that I'm so excited to get back into and play more of. The entire original Dinosaur Planet, the cancelled game by Rare that got turned into Star Fox Adventures, is now fully playable from start to finish on the N64 using the Everdrive, and that is just a dream come true. I've always been fascinated with the development history of Star Fox Adventures and all of the different changes it went through over the years. So to experience that original vision on the N64 is just honestly a dream come true, and I definitely plan on playing through the entire thing at some point, so stay tuned if you want to see that. I'll most likely play through it on stream as well, so definitely follow me on Twitch and YouTube Live to catch me playing that at some point in the future. But I'm just so happy that it exists, and the fact that people have actually been able to go into the source code and actually fix it so you can now play it from start to finish as well, because when it was first originally dumped you couldn't actually get that far into the game, and I did try and play it back then, but I stumbled into one of the blocks that you just could not progress past. But apparently now you can get a lot further, so definitely looking forward to checking out more Dinosaur Planet thanks to the N64 Everdrive. And finally, a really cool thing that you can do with this that actually applies to a lot of different games. So for one thing, there's a lot of widescreen hacks that allow you to play games in widescreen, and there's a bunch of other really cool IPS patches that you can use and install onto the SD card and then just patch the games automatically when you boot them up. So there's a few that improve the frame rate. There was a great one for Diddy Kong Racing that I found that actually lets you play the game in 60 frames a second, and that actually does make a really big difference, so that was really fun to experience. And there's also a bunch of hacks that get rid of the anti-aliasing that the N64 is very well known for, which makes everything look kind of smudgy. You can actually remove that entirely and make the games look a lot sharper, which is great when paired with an upscaler, or to use with something like the Rad2X, which is what I use on my N64 to get the picture quality out into HDMI. So there's a bunch of really cool IPS patches that you can apply as well, and that was just 10 of, I'm sure, many more things that you can do with the N64 Everdrive. So if you're on the fence about getting one, I highly recommend it. I've been having an absolute blast with mine. And that was it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this one and you want to see more Everdrive videos, then click up here and watch my one for the Game Boy Advance, and I'll see you all again very soon. Goodbye.